All right, guys, this is Trevor with Enlisted Nine Fight Company, podcast Beyond the Belt. This is episode 2 with Topaz Navarro, as promised. A little bit later than we expected, but we're getting it done. So I want to shout out first Enlisted Nine Fight Company, which is a veteran-owned apparel company. It's also owned by Colton Smith. He's a black belt. Is also who I train under here in Virginia. And they are partnered with Nine Line Apparel. So if you go to ninelineapparel.com, you look at the Enlisted Nine line, the Enlisted Nine line on this page. It will link you right to Enlisted Nine's apparel, and Enlisted Nine E9FCVA.com is our website for training here in Stafford, Virginia. We welcome all levels: Jiu Jitsu, women's self-defense, MMA, and pure wrestling, high school and beyond. So without further ado, this is Topaz, and I'm going to let him take over introducing himself, and then we'll get right into what we're going to talk about today.
Hey, what's up, guys? How's everybody doing today? As Trevor stated, man, my name is Topaz Navarro. I got such a huge story, man, figure out where to begin. So I'm active duty Army. I have 25 years in right now. I'll be retiring in 2021 with 26 years of service. I've been doing Jiu Jitsu for about 10 years now, 4-stripe brown belt. Here's an interesting story. I spent 10 years training here in Columbia at ground control in Columbia, and then recently I switched over to Enlisted Nine in Stafford, and I also train under Colton Smith, my coworker, my teammate, my partner, awesome dude, and I train often with Rich too, over at Belvoir Grappling. So really, there's so much we could talk about, man. Let's just get into it.
All right, so if anybody watched the last episode, you know I talked about the All In Foundation, which is a nonprofit helping people cope with the invisible wounds of trauma through jiu-jitsu and water sports and art and other aspects. And anybody who wants to know more about that, there's no better person I can tell you than the guy who's on right now, Topaz. It's his nonprofit organization. So I'll let him get into it and where he started it, why he started it, and where he sees it growing in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate this opportunity, man. First, thank you again for having me on. I'm going to lead with my plugs, and then I'll revisit them at the end so everyone remembers. So workplayobsession.com, that's the website. Got a lot of stuff on there, guys. Then we're Workplay Obsession on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. I'm on Twitter. Topaz Like the Stone is my handle. And then we also have a community line. I'll pull up the number in a little bit. Community line, I'm available 24/7. It's my personal way to outreach anyone who ever wants to talk to someone. So it doesn't matter what you want to talk about. It's actual text, not voice, but I'm there 24/7. We don't get a lot of traffic right now, but it's a resource that I love to have available to people. So going back to the question is, Workplay Obsession, where do we start? Where do we come from? So if we go back about 6 years, Workplay Obsession, Life in Jiu Jitsu. That's how we started. I was probably a purple belt at the time. Had multiple knee injuries. So 2 meniscus tears, one in each knee. Sent me into a little spiral of depression. So I started to do photography and podcasting. So those are my outlets. And then I began to visit other gyms. And that's what helped me kind of deal with not being able to train, and it built my network. So then about a year ago, I lost 2 teammates to suicide within 35 days of each other. So that was about a year ago now.
That's crazy.
So what happened was at that time I said, hey, I need to go full press with this organization so that we can generate donor dollars and revenue and give back to the community at large. And that's how we became Workplay Obsession All In Foundation. And All In Foundation is specific to two things. We're all inclusive, meaning law enforcement, firefighters, first responders, and teachers, and also spouses and children, so dependents, all inclusive. And then the second piece of that is you don't have to be diagnosed as ill, injured, or wounded by the VA. Because the VA process is very difficult, one, to get through, to meet the DSM-5 categories for mental illness. And then also, some people don't recognize what they're dealing with, or they don't want to, I'll use the word accept, what they're dealing with. So if we can provide resources without someone having to say, hey, I am dealing with a significant mental health challenge, we want to put the right people in the room together. So that's what we do, man. And, we provide outreach. We do Jiu Jitsu. We do stand-up paddleboarding. We do fishing. We do art. And we do yoga. And sometimes we do events that combine all those things together.
Okay.
And then,
Greg?
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So I was just going to say, since you started the workplace session all in, since the passing of your two teammates, how much has it grown from then to now? Do you have a lot of events and a lot of people show up? Is it kind of a small personal group right now that you're trying to expand? You go into that aspect.
Yeah, great question. So we were significantly impacted by COVID-19. So as generous as people are, and people love to donate, not having a 501c3 nonprofit status will prevent many donors from contributing. When we're talking corporate donors or CEOs or philanthropists, they want to wait until you have the 501c3. That didn't come through for us until April of this year.
Okay.
So now we're full court press with marketing, pitching these big corporations. In fact, I don't know if you've met Tyler. He's a purple belt that trains down at Belfort Grappling.
Yeah, I know Tyler.
Yep. So he linked me up with Hawk Cow Marketing. They're a great marketing firm that they're working with us right now to put together our materials so that we can go solicit big time donors. And then I think once we do that, it will greatly enhance and extend our reach.
Okay, yeah, I think so too. Marketing is huge in every aspect of business. So I think you guys getting that reach with big time donors. I know a couple guys that they have a sort of a similar foundation. They don't do necessarily the same thing, but they might be, I'll reach out to them and see if I can help you out there too, because I know they do sort of the same thing. They last event I went to, they rented out like 10 bays at Top Golf for a veteran PTSD mental health awareness day that was sponsored by all corporations, and it was all veterans and people of the guy's old community when he was active duty. And they came and they golfed and they drank and they ate food and had a good time. And he said it was, I was there for a little bit of it, but at the end they did like a giveaway of some kind of gift, and said it was really good.
Yeah, it's interesting that you hit on that, because we're looking at doing the same thing. We want to. Top Golf's a great place, a great way to hold an event like that. So we're looking at doing the exact same thing. It's pretty exciting. Yeah, the big thing for me is like I feel uncomfortable asking individuals to donate, repeatedly or on a regular occasion, which is why we're really targeting these larger corporations, because I want to provide a service to veterans and law enforcement, firefighters, first responders, without being a burden on them at the same time.
Right.
So that's why we're going this other route. A lot of places they survive on like CFC, combined federal campaign, or donations from individuals and pledge drives, which we're still going to do that, because you have to diversify your income. But I would like to be able to lean on large corporations to fund our effort.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to go. I think most corporations want to help veterans, especially the ones that are dealing with trauma or any other mental health I won't say disability, but mental health concern. And I think they want to help as much as they can because they know eventually when they're out of the military, one day they might be working for their company and they want to be able to say, hey, I provided XXX help for these service members. So I think I think what you're doing is great.
Yeah, I was going to say, and it's not only that, that's one point and one factor. But when you look at it in this particular community, a majority of the people that retire or end their service, they stay in this community. So now you're buying down risk, because you're providing treatment for the mental health challenge, and you're increasing their level of performance on the job because you're decreasing their depression, anxiety, and some of their symptoms from post-traumatic stress. So you're buying down risk, you're providing the service, and as a philanthropist, you feel good inside. Right. So it's all of those things where it's really beneficial for them to get.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's what you're doing is great, and that's a great foundation, and I can't wait to see it grow and be a part of helping you grow it.
Yeah, we'll have you. We'll make you come in and teach some wrestling camps.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So yeah, it'd be cool. You said you're coming down Sunday to train for Pans, or?
Yeah, I'm planning to come down Sunday, man, and help Rich and the guys train. I'm actually doing, interestingly enough, I'm doing the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention Out of Darkness walk.
Okay.
It's that Saturday, so the 10th. So I'm hosting a small event because although the event is virtual this year for the AFSP, I feel that I need to do an event with some people in person because, we lost our teammates and we need to be together to grieve, to remember, and to celebrate, the lives that those guys lived and our operational achievements at the same time,
Right.
So.
Yeah, that'd be cool. I always enjoy having you in the room, and that'll be good that you're going to, even though the main event, so to speak, is virtual for the walk. I know it, like you said, it's great to have that, lack of better words, fellowship with your teammates. Exactly. And, you get to hang out and the camaraderie. I would come because I'm not going to Pans, but my girlfriend's best friend's getting married, and I'm obligated to go to the wedding. So I'll be doing that Saturday. So just, think about me on your walk.
No, it's going to be small, man. Like I capped it at 20, but I'm really only anticipating maybe 10.
Okay.
Right? Like it's going to be small, even if it's just me and the board of directors, I'm comfortable with that. It's just our way of, spending a little bit of time together and appreciating their lives, so, and everyone's life who's dealing with, as a survivor, or dealing with, the loss of someone they love,
For sure. Well, hopefully you get the 10 at least. Hopefully you get 20, but if not, you get the 10 or you get your board and y'all have a good time.
Yeah, we'll be good, man. We'll be good.
Yeah, for sure. So next, let's go into, you just opened your own gym in Columbia, Rogue Academy. What led you to do that? And at what point did you feel like, all right, I've been training with X, Y, and Z for my entire military career. Actually, maybe we should go into your jiu-jitsu journey through the military and the struggles you faced doing that before we lead into you opening your own school. So yeah, sure. Go into your jiu-jitsu journey through the military.
Yeah, interesting story about my jiu-jitsu journey is work-play obsession is my jiu-jitsu journey, right? So for me, jiu-jitsu started as work. MACP, combatives, and a little bit of personal defense on the civilian side. So it started out as work, right? Close quarters fighting, transitioning from hand to hand to ballistic weapons and things like that, bladed weapons. And then I began to play with it because it was interesting. So I'm like, now I'm going to use some of my free time to play with these and develop my skills a little bit more. You never get enough MACP, on active duty. You just not enough. Yeah. So I began to play with it, right? And then as is natural with anyone who trains with jiu-jitsu long enough, it became an obsession. So that was the progression: work, play, obsession. So as a white belt, well, to your point, you struggle with the military, right? Because you move, and every time you move, you're in a new place, and you have to build up your, I don't know, credentials or prove your worth, to your new academy, and you're back on the bottom of the totem pole, right? Yep. So there's that. That's one. And two is deployments, right? So my career has been, really the 9/11, post 9/11 operational tempo. So every time you deploy, you're not training. Right, so now that sets you back with your cohort, your peers. You're a little bit behind unless you can find some way to keep your skills sharp while you're on the road. So that was a big part of it. So, and I also started late. I started at 32. So you're dealing with the young wrestlers, the young white belts that are super in shape. And you're the old man trying not to get injured. So there's that too. But the biggest pieces I think to it are really transitioning, and finding a new place to train and fitting in with both the people and the style. Two, deployments, and how quickly you can get back into the gym and get back into shape and conditioning for training. And three, your mindset. Because for me, and people who train with me can attest to this, my jiu-jitsu mindset is a tactical athlete, kind of combative-based mindset. So what do I mean by that is I like knee-out belly type positions. I don't like going for a lot of submissions. I would prefer to stay cross-side or mount and just kind of hang out there and work you over until you quit on yourself. And I don't really take the back very much. Because my mindset is, even if I have your back, you can press me against the street or the grass or wherever the ground is until your buddy kicks me in the head. Or while I'm trying to control you around the neck, I have no control over your hands. So you can be going for a pin, a set of keys, whatever. So my mindset's a little different when I roll. And for a lot of instructors that don't know that, it's frustrating for them. Because they're like, why aren't you choking? Why aren't you taking it? And I'm like, that doesn't transfer for me. What I do is I train for work, right? There was an old Mac T-shirt on the back. It said, for them, their training is for the cage. For us, the cage is just training.
Yep.
And it might have been Colton's picture on the back. It was but that has always stuck with me. So
that's an interesting take. Most jiu-jitsu guys, don't think like that. It's nowadays, I think most people start, at least I did, start for jiu-jitsu or MACP because when I was active duty, I did the combative stuff. I competed. I fought in the All-Army tournament back in 2016. It might have actually, I think it was the All-American. I went down to All-American week. We took a couple guys. It was me, Manny, Dennis Jones, a couple other guys that, just trained sparingly with us. And we went down and we started, we look at it like you said, self-defense. That's at least how we started, and that's our mindset. Now, have we adopted a little bit of the sport jiu-jitsu, and we know the sport jiu-jitsu stuff, of course, but at the end of the day, we're training for a bad day, we're not going to win medals. Yeah, cool if we go, we'd like to win medals, but it's more of what works for us on a bad day.
Yeah.
So,
but competition is necessary, right? Like it's a part of it, because you need to be able to test yourself under stress and then kind of sit back and say, okay, where do we need to adjust our game plan? Where do we need to adjust our training? Yep. What went right? What went wrong? And then how do we set new goals from there? But here's a big thing for me right now. I talk to a lot of people about submissions, right? And when you look at basic human biology and physiology, right? Any kind of chokehold or submission, right? Your amygdala takes over. Your reptilian brain takes over, and your body is now going fight or flight. Your prefrontal cortex is now being shut down. So when people think I would just immediately choke, that's how you get a non-compliant individual, because they're not thinking. Their prefrontal cortex is shut down. So you can say comply until you're blue in the face. Their body is in fight or flight mode.
It's in that
And I tell people,
the primal stage, basically. Yeah, I'm just saying the body's at that point in the primal stage.
Right. So, and that's why I tell people, I say, if you transition your mindset to control, think about it when you roll with people. If you just consistently pass their guard, go to cross side, smother them in mount, smother them in cross side, they quit. But if you continuously try to choke someone, they try to fight back from the choke and escape.
Yeah. That's true.
That's the mindset I try to tell people. I say, if you as a law enforcement or even a bouncer, right? Once you exhibit dominant control, people quit. But once you start doing the submission, people are going to fight because the prefrontal cortex shuts down. And people who don't study science or don't study the human body, they don't realize that.
That's true. That's something, you taught me something today.
Back to the road thing. I'm specifically going to teach a class for law enforcement and military only. And it's going to be
at your school?
I call it, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. So I call it control and comply. Because we take out a lot of the submission holds. Right, you can still use wrist locks, for control there, or Kimura Americana type of control, which I love, by the way. But spinning arm bars, bow and arrow chokes, things like that, they're not a part of the curriculum.
As well, they shouldn't be, because it looked pretty bad. Somebody had telling me bow and arrow choke on Facebook. Some cop was bow and arrow choking somebody.
Yeah, on the side of the street, right? He's got it.
Yeah, like I said, man, I think it's great. I know me and Colton talked about it. So I don't know if you know, but when I was active duty, I was an MP. Dennis was also an MP. So law enforcement also isn't negatively looked upon in the civilian world. People in the military hate MPs, and honestly, I don't blame them. A lot of them, I don't know what it is. They're bullied in high school, and then they got the badge and they're MPs, and they think they're tough. Thankfully for me, I never let myself get into that mentality, probably because I train Jiu Jitsu, and I know that it could be a vet tech that you train Jiu Jitsu with, and he just he beats you up every day.
So that's the beauty of Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah, so that's the mindset I go into when I was working the road and dealing with non-compliant. I'm just like, hey, I'm not trying to assert authority on you, but I need you to do this so you don't ruin your career. So yeah, I think it's great. I know, like I said, me and Colton talk about it, doing a law enforcement class. I think the only issue that we see right now is that not enough law enforcement see that they need extra training. They don't realize how much more is out there. They go through the academy, they get their hands-on training from some guy who taught Krav Maga 20 years ago, and they're like, all right, well, he knows what he's doing. But they don't realize that there's a wealth of knowledge, in Columbia, Maryland, right? You're there, or Stafford, Virginia, you got Colton. There's plenty of schools, but they just don't take the training opportunities, or they don't make the time to do it, which is unfortunate for them and the community as a whole, as now you can see in the issues that's been going on in like the the social issues with law enforcement recently.
Yeah.
So I think what you're doing, the law enforcement class will really be great.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I mean, I like shout out to the guys at Sheepdog, because their fundamental breakdowns, like I share them every time because they're fundamentals and they do such a great job of walking through the fundamentals. I also like the fact that they're in t-shirts and Carhartt pants or t-shirts and jeans or like that's how our class is going to look. You can wear your holster if you want to wear a holster, with training weapon. That way we can practice transitioning. I like to add in some other things, scenario-based stuff. Shout out to Tony Blauer and the Spear System. Ballistic microfights, where their things are 30 seconds, 45 seconds of high intense conflict based off of some scenario, right? Scenario-based training. Those are the things that we need to see more of, because that's the way you learn where you're lacking.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I could talk about that forever because I'm really passionate about that. But.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Sheepdog today because the video of Dennis teaching how to slip a straight punch. I saw you comment on it. I commented on too.
Yeah.
And Dennis are pretty close. So I'm super happy for him that he's as successful as he is working with Tim and the Sheepdog Response guys. And I think what they're doing is really good for the community. And everybody, and they travel all over the world. So you guys that don't know, Sheepdog Response, look them up. They're some of the best guys, law enforcement, special operations. Tim Kennedy fought in the UFC. I mean, they got a wealth of knowledge. Anything you could think of, they know it. Fighting, firearms, counter surveillance, they know all of it. So shout out Sheepdog Response. Topaz plugged it, and I'll plug it again because one of the best companies doing it right now.
Yeah, they're doing good things, man.
So let's just lead your jiu-jitsu journey in the military. Oh, one more thing about that. So being that you've been a leader of soldiers for a long time, just hitting on the jiu-jitsu and the military thing. Like you said, you've been leading soldiers for I'd say most of your career at this point. What advice would you have for soldiers that are picking up jiu-jitsu and dealing with the same things you dealt with PCSing and deployments? How would you say to handle that situation?
Yeah, I think it's come a long way since back then, which is great. I can't remember the name of the Facebook group right now. I'll look it up later and send it to you, but literally before you PCS, you can post it right on the Facebook page and say, hey, I'm PCSing here. Is there any jiu-jitsu here? And you will get replies from people within the next day.
Nice.
So find a reputable place, and make sure that they have some type of self-defense program. And if not, I recommend you build it. People love training for free, right?
Yeah.
So Belvoir Grappling is a great example. Between Manny, Dennis, Doc, who else was, and Tyler, right? They stood up Belvoir Grappling. They brought me in, they brought Rich in, and then Colton came in. We were having 20 to 30 people on the mats. 3 classes a day.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't have a place, start it, man.
So funny story that you talking about Belvoir Grappling. So I got off active duty in 2017. So before that, I was training with Dennis and Manny. I was helping them run the MACP courses. Level 1, level 2. We used to go out to there's an abandoned prison, Lorton Prison. I don't know if you've ever been out there, close to Woodbridge. So level 2 now, is tactical combatives.
Right.
So we talked to those guys out there who run the prison. There's another agency. We'd go out there and we'd run tactical situations inside the prison, which is pretty cool. But during those classes, that was one day of the combative. Level 2 is 2 weeks. So that was one day of the 2 weeks. But previous to that, me, Dennis, and Manny every day at lunch, we would train or we'd go lift. So it was us three forever doing that. And we eventually, like I said, I got out. And then that's when they really started taking off, like you said, Belvoir grappling with those two, Doc, Manny, brought you in, Rich came, Colton. So it started, even if it's just y'all six. I mean, I have pictures on my social media, I know you do too, there's times 30, 40 people on the mat. And that's like, man. It's cool to see like how much it's grown.
So yeah, that, back to your question. I mean, that's what I would do. I couldn't find the Facebook page I was looking for, but I'll research it again. But connect with that group, man. They'll put you in touch with the right people, and then if not, just try to build it. Try to build it, man. People will come, and then eventually, someone who's an upper belt who had no idea, they'll show up and be like, "Oh man, where did this come from?"
Yeah,
and then you'll have awesome. That guy in there teaching.
Yeah, I mean that's a great advice. I think like you said, find a reputable place and go there and shop around. Interesting how I got linked up with Colton, because when I got off active duty, I moved back to North Carolina, and me and my buddy, he's also a purple belt at the time. We started a business, didn't work out. I came back up here, and I text Dennis, and Dennis like, "Hey man, Colton is training for a fight." He said, "I told him about you. He told me to tell you to come out." So I go out, and I hit on this in the last podcast too, but I ate a Nachos Bel Grande or Nacho Supreme from Taco Bell on my way to training that night. And Colton kicked me, and that didn't feel too good. So I ended up throwing it all up. But going there that day, I felt like it was family from day one, and I still feel that way today. And since then, my family's grown. I've met you through Jiu Jitsu. I've met a bunch of people through Jiu Jitsu. So, like you said, I think that's the best way to do it. Build networking. I think networking's huge in every aspect of life. So yeah, thank you. Thanks for letting the viewers know that are military or anyone, if you're moving to a new city or not, do your research, text the people hit the Facebook group up that Topaz was talking about. If you do your own research and find it, and go from there. And then
the other oops, sorry. I was going to say you hit on a really great point. I actually started working with Colton about maybe 8 months ago. But just like you said, his personality, man, and his passion for the Army and for this country it's remarkable. And he took me into the team, man, and his vision and what they're trying to do with Enlisted 9. I drive to Stafford, man. For those of you guys that don't know, that I drive like an hour, to go train. I don't do it that often. I try to do it every other week. But Colton's just like, "Hey, man, come down and train. You're part of the family." And I was like, all right, I'll be there. And the reason why I say that is because going into the question that we didn't really get to yet is Jiu Jitsu community is, from a business perspective, is rough, man.
Yeah.
And when we came out, my partners and I said we're opening a location, I was ostracized from my academy. And I was there 10 years. And I had to make the decision to leave. I don't talk about this that much because 10 years, I'm friends. I became friends with the owner. But granted, we're only 3 miles apart. I felt that our mission, and we'll get into that in a minute, is a little bit different. So I really had this passion behind working on the academy. So I had a few discussions with Colton, and with Rich as well, and I kind of bare my soul to those guys. And they were 100% behind me and said, "You have a home with us, man, and Enlisted 9." So enough of that. I don't want to get teary-eyed on this road.
That's good, man. Like I said, and you're a part of the family now, so you know how Colton is. I mean, he would give you the shirt off his back. Now, if he knew you or he didn't know you, and everybody's welcome with open arms. So yeah, now that you mentioned your academy, and you don't got to get into the weeds, but about don't make everybody on here emotional. But how you decided, at what point in your jiu-jitsu career did you decide, all right, now's the time to open a school. I'm ready to do it. This is my vision for it, and this is how we're going to go about it. And then we'll get into the other details later.
Yeah. So to be honest, the opportunity kind of fell into my lap, so to speak. A lot of shutdowns due to COVID, right? And I had a friend reach out to me. He asked me to join their jiu-jitsu pod. So for those of you guys that don't know, jiu-jitsu pods are like groups of anywhere from 3 to 10 people who train together exclusively during COVID, so that you were kind of confident that you weren't spreading germs with everybody else. So I said, yeah, man, I'll join your pod. I was in the retirement process for the Army, so I was already working on a youth development program and a peak performance coaching, because that's what I really enjoy doing. So when we would train together, we were training at their location, where the gym is now, where the academy is now. And after a few conversations, just through training and discussing stuff, the guys approached me and they asked me if I wanted to join in with them. And I was like, absolutely, I'll join you guys, because the foundation was already built. And what I was offering to bring was part of what we have. So let me explain to you Rogue Academy, why I love it so much and why I couldn't say no. So at Rogue Academy, our approach is holistic health and fitness, right? Helping people reach their happiest, healthiest life. We have jiu-jitsu, we have self-defense, we have the law enforcement military only class, we have a youth development program, we have yoga, and we have a nutrition program. And then, of course, I also do peak performance coaching. So the youth development program is 3 days of jiu-jitsu, and then Tuesday, Thursday in between, we do yoga and meditation with them. We do critical thinking, growth mindset, decision making, and social emotional learning. That's the Tuesdays and Thursdays. So this program that we're providing for the youth is a complete program, man. Like, I was like, if you're coming in and your kids are training Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, what about Tuesday and Thursday? And that provides an opportunity to teach these skills, this emotional intelligence that we see is lacking right now across this country. So that's one piece. The other piece is on the yoga side. Depression, anxiety, suicidal ideology. We need this ability to get people to be present, right? When you're thinking, when you're anxious, you're living in the future, right? When you're depressed, you're living in the past. When you're doing yoga, you're living in the present. So the more people we can connect to the present, to find that balance, and to do a little bit of self-care, the better we'll all be. And then we add jiu-jitsu, which we all love, that confidence, that focus, and the ability to know that you can defend yourself and your loved ones creates this. You look at the way you carry yourself, right? You're less likely to deal with confrontation because you know that you can handle yourself and you know what you're capable of, right? So now that self-awareness is increased and that ego is decreased a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like a holistic program that I'm so in love with.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think it's even better that you're starting at a young age. You're doing it with the kids to where you're developing that. Just say you get a kid in, I don't know what age you start. I'm assuming probably around 5 years old is your youngest. Higher.
We're starting at 10.
At 10, okay. I mean, that's fair too.
And the reason why we're starting there is because of our program is we have STEM-based activities in there. We're doing, like I said, emotional intelligence, critical thinking, complex problem solving, so decision making. A little bit of that is like we're looking at that 5th grade, 6th grade level.
Right, which is great. I mean, that's like you said, that's when they start making those cognitive decisions as a not as an adult, but as a human, as a more advanced human. They start, and if you can develop that trait for 8 years, just saying they're in your kids program until they're 16 or 18, whichever it is, and you're developing that the entire time. I mean, I know I didn't have that growing up. Honestly, I didn't even start jiu-jitsu or wrestling or any of that until my junior year in high school. And before then, I only played baseball. And, yeah, baseball is my family, but I've never found a family like how I am now and built confidence. Baseball, I'm confident on the baseball field if you play baseball. Yeah. But your ego is way up here, and your self-awareness is way down here. But with jiu-jitsu and combat sports, it kind of changes. So –
oh, yeah, there's you can't lie out there, man.
No, one-on-one. The truth that you're going to be exposed one way or the other.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but
you hit out another really cool point. You said if you think about this, right? This is something you've already talked about before, the last episode. If you started at our academy at the age of 8, by the time you're 15, you're a legacy lifetime member.
Yeah.
and you don't have to pay any more for the rest of your life.
That's ridiculous. That's crazy.
So
get into that. Yeah, get into that. Let everybody know what you're talking about.
So why do we do that? So legacy lifetime member is anyone who is a member of the Rogue Academy for seven years. Right. So that's 7 separate annual contracts. Right. You have to do annual contracts. But they're separate. Not 7 years up front, not a 7-year commitment. They're single annual contracts, but you do 7 in a row, and the rest of your life is free. You get married, your wife is free. You have kids, your kids are free. So why do we do that? When you look at jiu-jitsu, right, a big thing that you always hear is, oh, that student left, he's a Creole. He's not loyal. And it's like, okay, well, what is the program providing back to the student? And the instructor's like, well, I provide my blood, sweat, and tears in my instruction. The student says, I provide my blood, sweat, and tears every time I show up to train. So we wanted to say, hey, you spent 7 years and you've provided us, I don't know, $15,000 or whatever it costs for 7 to 10 years of training. We want to give back to you. This is our way of showing you that we're loyal. And not only that, but now that individual is bringing his skills into class, right? And he's also an ambassador for your academy. If someone stays with you for 7 years, you're either a good academy or your prices are really cheap.
Yeah.
If walk into an academy and if they don't have any purple belts or brown belts, right, that have been there longer than 7 years, that should be a red flag.
Yeah.
If the school is older than 7 years old, you better have some people that have been there longer than 7 years. Or to me, that's a red flag.
No, I would agree. Yeah, if no one in there has stayed longer than 7 years except the guy who runs it and owns it, then there might be an issue there.
So that's why we did it, man. Loyalty is like not even the point. It's having proof. It's not in a metric of, hey, this is our profit margin. It's like, no, these are the people that have stayed with our program for all these years. Because this is what we really do it for.
Yeah, and those people are your profit margin, so to speak.
Exactly.
Outside of monetary, the people who stay for 7+ years and they rave about Rogue Academy and they tell all their friends, hey, if you come train with me and you train here for 7 years, you never have to pay again.
Yeah.
And that in and of itself is bigger than any money that any of us will ever make.
But think about it. If you're like that and then you have a couple kids.
Yeah.
you're like, hey, I'm bringing my kids in here, and now you've just established the next legacy or the next,
Yeah, exactly.
the next, you're setting up the legacy. It's like, I wanted to do, I thought 10 years was too long. We thought about purple belt, but then you have some people that'll say, well, they're not promoting me because they want me to keep paying. So we wanted to take the bias out of it and say 7 years, man. It's black and white.
So is it 7 consecutive years? Or I guess my question would be, say I came to Rogue Academy, I signed up, say January 2021. I was there for till January of 2023, but then I PCS somewhere. When I come back, do I still have those 2 years?
Yeah.
Or does it start over?
Yep. No, you still have those 2 years. And here's another reason why. You raised a perfect example why for someone in the military that has to PCS. But also, I personally know people who trained at an academy for a few years. They got the competition vibe, moved to California, trained at Atos, trained at Art of Jiu Jitsu or whatever, did their competition run, then moved back to the area. If they're bringing that talent back to us and that knowledge, yeah, man, we're not going to start you from zero. We want to entice you to come back, So you're like, oh, well, I already have 3 years. I only have to do, yeah, man, come on.
Exactly. Yeah, I know a few people like that too. One of the guys I used to train with down in Virginia Beach, Diego Bispo, solid black belt.
Diego.
Yeah, his little brother actually left Diego's and moved out west and trained with Caltera. So, like you said, hey, come on back, bring whatever Cal taught you, Autos taught you. We want it.
Yeah, man. Yeah. No, you're 100% right, man. We would love for people to come back and return to the academy. So for sure.
Heck yeah. Let's see a couple more things. So I guess to you, as being a 4-stripe brown belt and being trained jiu-jitsu for about 10 years or longer, what does it mean for you to be an upper belt in a jiu-jitsu school? Not only your own, but if you go to visit and any academy, even if you come down to ours, what does it mean to you? And how do you think upper belts should carry themselves and what they should provide in a training environment?
Yeah. So first and foremost for me is I say roll to the level of your competition. Right. That is when you know that you have a command of jiu-jitsu. So, and that doesn't even equal belt rank. I'm saying you roll to the level of your competition. So even if I have a white belt, and in fact, I know a guy who just got his blue belt last week. Awesome wrestler. So I didn't know this at first. Everyone else knew, so they were kind of watching this, So I'm out there. He's a white belt, so I go out there, rolling to the level of my competition. Boom, he takes me down. And I probably outweigh him by like 30 pounds. So I was like, okay. And he's going hard, trying to pass. So I have to amp it up a little bit. But at that skill level, his passing versus my guard retention, my sweeps versus passing, those don't match up. So I go a little bit lighter there. But then I intentionally take it back to the feet. Because now I can go 100%. Because I know his wrestling's better than mine. So I always tell people roll to the level of your competition. That is my responsibility as an upper belt. That's one. And then two is really being respectful of everybody that comes in. Introducing yourself to people, helping people that may be struggling. Not to the point where you're interfering with the class or contradicting with your instructor, but enough assistance. Being willing to answer a question if someone else asks you. Those are the key things. For me.
Yeah, I think those are great. I'm just got a stripe on my purple belt 3 weeks ago. I took a while off, but I agree with you. Roll with the level of your competition. I mean, what do you get out of it if there's a white belt and they're 20 pounds lighter than you and you just go out there and smash them? you
Your
let
ego feels
them,
good.
yeah, exactly. You feel great, like, oh, I smashed the white belt. But then you go out there and you roll with a purple belt and they smash you. It's like, give and take. So like you go and you let the white belt, you think you're being nice. You're like, oh, let the white belt pass in a half guard just so you can muscle sweep them over because you just been doing it so much longer than them. So yeah, what do you get out of it? And then what do they get out of that? They don't get no training aspect. They're like, oh yeah, purple belt who should beat me up. Like,
Yeah.
there's no
Now,
training.
I was going to say my only caveat to that is competition class.
Right. Yes.
So if you're a competition class, there's no rolling to the level of your competition. You should be whatever the plan is developed by your coaching staff. That's what you're following. So if they're saying you go easy, it's an easy day. If they're saying we're going hard and working hard, then sorry, white belt. Like it's just it's competition to you. We're preparing, but we're focused, right? And we're on a plan, so it's all understandable.
Right. Yeah. And if they're there for competition class, they signed up for it too. So.
Yeah.
And I think in that aspect it's more beneficial for both of you, and maybe even more beneficial for the lower belt, because if they're training for competition and they got me and you going at them hard and trying to get them ready, most of the time another white belt's probably not going to go and know the level of jiu-jitsu that you and I might know, or someone else at our level might know. So yeah, no, I agree with you 100% there. Yeah, I think we covered everything. I appreciate you, diving a little bit deeper into what we talked about in the last episode. Sorry, the co-host couldn't be here this time. He's actually in the police academy right now. Down in North Carolina. He's not struggling, but it's hard. He's training every day. He's in class every day. He lifts twice a day. He's just got married. His wife's pregnant. So he's got a lot going on. So,
he's super busy.
Yeah. And, he really wants to focus on the academy, being a police officer is what he's wanted to do probably since he was 20. From 18 to 20, he was actually going to try to be a rescue swimmer in the Coast Guard. And, he met his girl. Him and his girl really got serious. And then, he's like, all right, I don't want to leave her. So he's saying, I should focus on the law enforcement thing. So that's been his focus. So, but he'll be on here eventually. So.
Yeah, man. And I'm more than willing to be on whenever you guys need, man. I enjoy it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, we want to eventually start doing it